we're going to give you another update on the coronavirus. There are nearly 70 people around the world who have lost their homes and are on the move. Call them what you will, refugees, IDPs, internally displaced people, or asylum seekers. The bottom line is that a large majority of these people are living in very, very trying conditions. Think of countries like Syria, Yemen, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, South Sudan, just to name a few. They've been facing years of war and internal conflict, and millions from these countries are constantly on the move. And aid agencies say now that the coronavirus pandemic, getting help and aid to these people who are among the world's most vulnerable will only become more and more difficult and challenging. All right, Fabrizio Carboni is the Near and Middle East Regional Director of the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, joins me now. Fabrizio, good to have you on. Many of the countries that I just mentioned are already war-torn. Many of these countries are experiencing ongoing conflicts. This pandemic is going to make things certainly more difficult for the current situation.
Yes, you described very well the situation. The countries you mentioned are facing situation of violence over a period of 9 to 10 years. I mean, Syria, we're getting into the 10 years of conflict. And it's all the health infrastructure which was damaged. It's people who have been through this violence, instability, displacement. And so you have a system which is weakened and who for sure will have difficult times to deal with an outbreak of the pandemic. That's why we need to prevent at all costs.
Okay. Fabrizio, one of the measures that we're seeing taken by governments around the world are tightening movements of its own citizens, but they're also closing borders. If borders are completely closed, how does this hamper your efforts?
I mean, for the time being, the first priority for us is to protect our own staff. Because if our staff is at risk, we won't be able to assist and to protect people. For the time being, the restriction of movement don't have an impact on our capacity to support, but in the midterm, long term, I mean, in terms of weeks, it will be devastating for many reasons. The first one is that the market is dry, so we can't buy what we need to assist people. That's why, for instance, if you look at Turkey, if you look at the work of the Kizilay producing masks and respirators, it's really important that they are able to produce this and distribute this. Mm-hmm. The second is, as you said, is to move goods between the borders. And we manage to negotiate very often humanitarian exceptions. But it's something we need to do on ad hoc basis. And we really hope that very soon we can have a global agreement, a global exception for humanitarian movement. And the last one, it's our staff. You know, our staff is stuck in very isolated places, in violent places. And it's not always easy for them to move and assist the people who needs help.
There's so many examples like this, Fabrizio, but let me just give you one. There is a camp, a refugee camp in the northern or the Aegean Islands, Greek island of Samos. It's a one funded by the European Union. It was opened after this wave of refugees started crossing from Turkey over onto Greece. It's originally, when it was originally built, it was estimated it could hold about 650 people. Right now, there's almost 4,000 people there. Clearly, it's very overcrowded. And one of the things that we're being told by health experts, by our leaders, is social distancing. But when you have a camp that is way above its capacity, practicing social distancing can be very challenging, I would agree.
I would go even further. You can even sometimes consider that it's a luxury. Social distancing, you first need your own home. You know, if you're sharing a tent, if you're sharing a space, it's very difficult to take distance. The second thing is that you have many people who every day have to go out to earn money to feed their family, and for them to be locked down it's a disaster. It's unmanageable. So yes, you're totally right. The people displaced often have no home. People displaced are often in overcrowded places. And third, people displaced need every day to fight to have enough resources to provide food to their families. So it means that humanitarian action is more important than ever, because without our support, these people will have a double vulnerability: the vulnerability of the pandemic and the fact that they can't meet their basic needs.
Okay. The ICRC's Fabrizio Carboni, thank you very much for joining us here. I'm wishing you and your staff all the very best during this trying time.